Since the dawn of time, humanity has filled its legends with extraordinary figures, beings capable of bending the laws of nature to their will, summoning storms from clear skies, reading the future in dying flames, or making the mightiest kings tremble on their thrones. These men and women have been called mages, enchanters, druids, sorcerers, and wizards. They have survived the centuries not in tombs, but in stories, epics, and books, passed from one generation to the next like a living flame that refuses to go out. Today, we take you on a journey to meet 10 of the most powerful, most fascinating, and most unforgettable wizards in all of world literature and legend. 9 figures who didn't just cast spells, they shaped the very way we dream. He may be the most celebrated wizard Western civilization has ever conjured. Merlin, the enchanter of Arthurian legend, is a figure of breathtaking complexity, mysterious, morally ambivalent, and possessed of a power that borders on the divine. Born, in some versions of the myth, of a union between an incubus demon and a pure-hearted young woman, he carries within him the very duality of the world, light and shadow, wisdom and madness, prophecy and grief. His piercing gaze cuts through centuries like a blade. He sees what others cannot, past, present, and future unrolling before him like an open scroll. It is Merlin who shapes King Arthur, who guides Camelot from the shadows, who orchestrates the fate of an entire kingdom with the patience of a chess master playing a game only he can see. But Merlin is no mere servant of power. He is the guardian of a fragile cosmic balance, a magician whose wisdom is matched only by the profound loneliness that consumes him. His end, trapped in an oak tree or a cave by the enchantress Vivienne, the very woman he loved, stands as one of the most devastating ironies in all mythology. The greatest wizard in the world, imprisoned forever by his own heart. In J.R.R. Tolkien's breathtaking universe, Gandalf is far more than a wise old man with a pointed hat and a fondness for fireworks. He is an Istari, a divine being sent into the mortal world not to rule or conquer, but to guide, to inspire, and to resist the darkness without ever replacing the free will of those he protects. His presence is simultaneously reassuring and unsettling. He knows things he doesn't say. He sees paths no one else dares walk. Dressed in gray, smoking his pipe, he wanders Middle-earth with the appearance of a weary old wanderer, yet conceals a power that can bring Balrogs crashing into the abyss.
You shall not pass!
Those 4 words ring out like a civilization's refusal to surrender to the night. Returned from death, transfigured as Gandalf the White, he embodies resurrection itself, the light that triumphs not through domination, but through endurance. He never imposes. He never destroys without purpose. He is the wizard of humble wisdom and unbreakable dignity. And in a world of darkness, that turns out to be the most powerful magic of all. If Gandalf is the light of Middle-earth, Saruman is its corruption. Once the greatest of the 5 Istari, the head of the Order of Wizards, the embodiment of knowledge and reason, Saruman the White stands as Tolkien's most chilling portrait of what unchecked ambition can do to a once noble soul. His intellect is devastating. His voice is a weapon in itself, velvet smooth, hypnotic, capable of unraveling the convictions of the strongest minds, of making men doubt the very truth before their eyes. But it is that same towering intelligence that becomes his undoing. Convinced that he alone truly understands the world, he betrays, manipulates, and enslaves. He transforms Isengard into an industrial nightmare, rips ancient forests from the earth, and breeds armies of monsters forged for a single purpose: domination. Saruman is Tolkien's darkest warning, that knowledge without ethics leads inevitably to tyranny, and that the pursuit of absolute power hollows out the very soul of the one who chases it. His end, wretched and alone, stripped of everything he craved, is proportional to his fall, immense, inexorable, and utterly without mercy. He begins barefoot in a cupboard under the stairs, a scrawny kid with taped-up glasses and a mop of unruly hair hiding a scar shaped like a lightning bolt. And yet, Harry Potter has become one of the most iconic wizards in the entire history of world literature. What sets him apart from every other great magician is precisely his vulnerability. He is not the most gifted student at Hogwarts. He is not the most powerful. He is not the most brilliant. But he possesses something that no spell can teach: an unshakable courage, an absolute loyalty to those he loves, and a capacity to rise after every single fall. From Hogwarts to the Horcruxes, from the death of his parents to the deaths of his closest friends, Harry carries a crushing burden with a grace that is, at times, genuinely heartbreaking. He embodies the idea that the most powerful magic is not the one that comes from a wand, but the one that comes from love, and that even the most ordinary child can change the fate of an entire world. Behind the half-moon spectacles and the ever-present twinkle of amusement hides one of the most complex and quietly tormented minds in the entire Harry Potter saga. Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore is simultaneously the greatest wizard of his age and a man haunted by his own catastrophic mistakes. The death of his sister Ariana, his youthful ambitions alongside Grindelwald, the terrible choices he made in the name of a greater good that only he could see. He knows from the very beginning what will need to be sacrificed, and still he acts. With an architect's patience and a father's grief, he builds the future at the cost of his own peace of mind. His blue eyes sparkle, but they have witnessed things most men could not survive. Dumbledore is the wizard of calculated compassion, a man who understands that light cannot triumph unless someone is willing to bear the full weight of its price. He is not just wise, he is wise enough to know the limits of wisdom, and that, in the end, is what makes him truly great. There is no name for him, or rather, people refuse to say it, as if the word itself might summon him from the darkness. Tom Marvolo Riddle, who became Lord Voldemort, is the purest incarnation of what the terror of death can do to a human soul. Born of a witch mother and a muggle father who abandoned him, he carried from childhood an abyss inside himself that nothing could ever fill. Not power, not magic, not even the act of tearing his soul into 7 monstrous pieces to cheat death itself. His snake-like face, his blood-red eyes, his absent nose, his very appearance became the reflection of everything he sacrificed in his flight from mortality, his humanity. Voldemort is Harry's dark mirror. 2 orphans, 2 destinies, 2 choices. One chose love, the other chose control. And it is precisely that difference, seemingly small and utterly enormous, that seals the fate of the wizarding world. He is not simply a villain, he is a warning about what we become when we let fear consume everything we are. In the indomitable Gaulish village of Asterix, amidst the thunderous brawls and the roasting wild boars, one man watches over everything with a quiet wisdom and an authority so natural it needs no proclamation. Getafix, the village druid, a venerable keeper of ancestral knowledge, he alone knows the secret formula of the magic potion that renders the Gauls invincible. And he wields that knowledge with a discretion and a sense of responsibility that commands deep respect. But Getafix is far more than a potion brewer. He is the living link between his people and the forces of nature, the intermediary between the world of men and that of the Celtic gods. His white beard, his golden sickle, his mistletoe gathered by the light of the full moon, everything about him speaks of a sacred relationship with the cosmos that the modern world has largely forgotten. In a universe of noise, chaos, and Roman legions, he is the voice of measure, of learning, and of continuity. A wizard in a good-natured tunic, but one whose soul touches the stars. Before Merlin, before Gandalf, before every great wizard of modern literature, there was Circe, daughter of Helios, the sun god, and grandniece of Hecate, goddess of magic and the crossroads. In Homer's Odyssey, she stands as one of the most powerful and bewitching female figures in all of Greek mythology. On her island of Aia, surrounded by lions and wolves that were once men, she waits, a weaver of spells and destinies, patient as the tide. With a single wave of her wand, she transforms turns Odysseus's crew into swine. But when faced with the cunning Ithacan, armed with the sacred herb moly, she meets her match. And it is in that moment that her extraordinary complexity bursts into full view. For Circe is not simply an evil sorceress. She is a woman of sovereign intelligence, capable of tenderness as easily as cruelty, of breathtaking generosity and devastating revenge. She holds Odysseus on her island for a full year, not out of malice, but out of desire. She is vertigo itself. Beautiful, dangerous, and absolutely unforgettable. She is the shadow that falls across Camelot, the king's half-sister, Merlin's greatest rival. The woman Arthurian legend has by turns demonized and redeemed across 1,000 years of storytelling. Morgan Le Fay is a sorceress of rare power, schooled in the occult arts by the fairies themselves. In some versions of the myth, she is healer and sage, a guardian of ancient knowledge, a keeper of the old ways in a world being swept away by the new. In others, she is the supreme manipulator, working tirelessly toward Arthur's destruction, driven by a hunger for vengeance and an ambition without limit. What makes Morgan Le Fay one of the most compelling figures in medieval mythology is precisely this fundamental ambiguity. She is neither entirely good nor entirely evil. She is human, profoundly, stubbornly human, in a world that demanded women of power be either saints or monsters, with nothing in between. Her relationship to magic is visceral, identity deep. She doesn't cast magic, she is magic. And even at the end, it is she who gathers the dying king onto the barge bound for Avalon. Because in death, as in life, Morgan Le Fay has always been there, at the beginning and end of all things, watching, waiting, and weaving her spells into the very fabric of the world. Merlin and Gandalf, Circe and Morgan, Dumbledore and Voldemort. 10 wizards, 10 worlds, 10 ways of dreaming the impossible. What unites all of these figures, beyond their extraordinary powers, is what they reveal about us, our deepest hopes, our oldest fears, our eternal fascination with everything that lies beyond our grasp. Wizards are humanity's mirror, its highest aspirations and its darkest depths reflected back in robes and starlight and the crack of a staff against ancient stone. The greatest stories ever told have always needed someone who could do what the rest of us cannot, someone to carry the weight of the impossible so that the rest of us might believe, for just a moment, that the world is larger and stranger and more magnificent than it appears. As long as there are human beings who dream, who gather around fires to tell stories, or who crack open a book in the quiet light of a lamp, the wizards will live on, immortal, unforgettable, and somewhere, always, weaving their spells in the shadows of the world.